Hello there, guys and girls, or guys and ghouls, whichever you prefer to be called. Welcome to Paranormal Investigation Stories number 26. This investigation took place in Club Vampire, which was in Huddersfield town centre. It was a cellar bar underneath a pub called the Zetland, which was opposite the university. It's a very interesting investigation. We all met prior to going into Club Vampire in the upper lounge of the Zetland pub itself. There were quite a few of us again. There was myself, there was Angie, there was John Maunder, John Fox, Adeline Ratcliffe, and several others who, please excuse me, but their names escape me. Everyone there had some form of mediumistic ability. They were all veterans of many paranormal investigations, and the majority of them work with spirit on a day-to-day basis. Many of them were members of the Circle of True Spirit, and others were friends and colleagues. I digress. Whilst in the foyer of the pub, we all gathered and we were talking, and people asked, is there anything that anyone can pick up on? And we began to again meditate, to go into the alpha state, to draw the worlds closer together so that the spirit world could come in and let us know that they were there. We always started off with the saying that we're not here to disrespect you. We're not here to create any trouble. We are just seekers of the truth. We are seekers of wanting to know what goes on after death, if anything. And it is via these paranormal investigations that we are able to collate certain amounts of evidence with regard to life after life, rather than life after death. Where life after life is the kind of closing of your eyes in this world and reopening them within a blink in the brand new spirit world, which I am sure a lot of us would like to believe happens. I know that there are many people who are afraid of death. They're afraid of dying. And as I have said to many before, I do believe that it's possibly not the fear of dying itself, but how we will pass over. I think that is the one which is the more frightening of the two. There are others who say that they are scared of entering into a period of utter blackness and not existing anymore, which to myself personally is not logical, because if we're going into nothing, we will never know. We won't know at all. I read somewhere this week, I believe it was, where someone said, is life just a shard of light between two vast areas of darkness? You come from nothing, you're born, and then go to nothing. Personally, I don't believe that, because I do believe that we are, as everyone knows, we are made of energy, and energy cannot die. Energy will continue long after this flesh has rotted away. So, in simple terms, if we are not here, then we must be somewhere else. which makes a lot of sense to me. Anyhow, we were in this meditative state, and the first thing that came to my mind was a lady called Mary Ford, who used to sell tickets, as the pub itself used to be the entrance to, I believe it was the Empire Cinema, and she was the ticket lady. So I mentioned that Mary was here. Mary was aware that we were doing this investigation, and I believe that Mary was a grounded spirit, and that she had spent so much time within that cinema theatre, within her working life, that she had so many happy memories that she stayed on afterwards. Somebody went onto the Google, on the internet, on their phones, and they found out that Mary Ford did indeed work there, and she was indeed a ticket girl, and at some points in her life she had also been an usherette taking round the ice creams during the interval of the films. So that was a good start. We had a positive identification of a spirit which I believed was present with us. And I know she was present with us because I was also able to see her outline, where she would have stood in her days as a ticket collector. So it was nice again to have that confirmation that what I was picking up from the spirit world was actual fact. Several of the other people there began to pick up other information, and one of them even picked up some information about the home that Angie and myself live in. And he told us that we seem to constantly have trouble with one electric light bulb at the top of the stairs, which was always blowing, which again turned out to be true, because this light bulb had been a constant source of trouble. And no matter how many new bulbs you put in, within days they were burnt out, they were gone. The bulbs themselves were being manipulated by the spirit world, and we know for a fact that there is a spirit girl within our home, and she has been seen many times on the steps and in one of the upper rooms, so we know she's here. But ever since we found that out and brought it to her attention one night, the issue has never happened again. It was nice to know that she wanted us to accept her presence and to just accept the fact that she was living with us, which is absolutely fine. Anyway, from this point we went downstairs into Club Vampire, and as you can imagine, it was a very dark area. It had vaulted ceilings which were brick. There were certain areas excuse me, there were certain areas where there was red paint on the bricks, which to make it look like blood. There was very subdued lighting, and while we were there we left cameras in various areas again to try and pick up on any activity that was going on. And I think one of the most amazing pieces of activity that we found, looking back on the cameras, was that one particular area there appeared to be 4 horses and a trailer with barrels on actually came in, and it was there on film. It was a ghostly, it wasn't as clear as crystal, but everyone who saw it said that is horses and that is a trailer, which obviously would have been from the brewery back in the Victorian times. The landlord actually confirmed this by saying that where we were stood, the wall had been rebuilt, as it used to be a way for the horses and the trailers to come in to deliver the beer into the cellar. That in itself was quite an amazing and fascinating thing to see. It was residual energy, of course. And as I think we've spoken before, residual energy is like that this particular wall, that wall, they hold memories. And as we go into these buildings, our minds allow us to download the memories of a point in history. Like a rewinding of an old videotape or an audio tape. It's rewound and it replays over and over and over again. So what we actually saw there, it wasn't spiritual energy to speak of, it was residual energy, which is just a memory of a playback from the past. But nevertheless, it was wonderful to see, because we know that so many people had reported seeing and hearing things in that particular area. I took a few photographs of the area where the horses and trailers used to come in, and there was an absolutely incredible amount of very, very bright orbs which came in through that wall, again, which I believe were sentient energy. They kind of lit the whole area up. It was amazing. We set up some EVP recordings, and on quite a few of them we heard voices from the past. Again, possibly just recordings which are held within the silica which is in the walls. For those of you who are old like me, you will remember that videotapes and cassette tapes all contain silica, and within that silica is where the memory is contained. A lot of musicians would understand this. Without the silica, the recording would not happen, and within the cement of the building there is silica, and that is why there is this belief in what is known as the stone tape theory. We heard lots of laughter, we heard serious talking. At one point on the EVP it was a sound of like dominoes being turned over and people knocking to say that they couldn't go, which was a sign for the next person in the team to move, to make their move. The building itself, although having been decorated in a manner which was intended to look like a cellar in a castle where evil things carried on, the blood red walls, the bats which hung from the ceiling, the very name, the Vampire Club. Everything in the atmosphere led for people and their imagination to run wild, and for them to become fearful of what may happen in that club. And as you can imagine, the Gothic community and the people who are so involved in the vampire community would have loved such a place, home from home. But to a stranger going in, it would have looked a very sombre, strange and frightening place. However, personally I found it very, very interesting. Other photographs were taken and lots of orbs were seen again on the photographs, as always. there was a sound of a door slamming, which we are not sure whether it was somebody in the upper part of the pub or whether it actually happened in the cellar. The investigation went on. We did an Ouija board session after asking for protection, and again asking for only for the bright and the good to come through rather than anything which could harm us. And during this particular Ouija board session, the lady who I had seen upstairs, Mary Ford, actually came through. We asked her name and she spelt Maryford. Mary then went on to spell the date that she started working there, which was 1954. She went on to tell us of the time she retired from there, which was 1977. And she also went on to tell us that she had died, and if my memory serves me correctly, it was in 1992, 93. We asked the reason for her death, and Mary put alcohol. And again, the guy who went onto the Google to check out about Mary Ford found out from whatever site, I don't know, that this lady had actually died, and he searched the archives of the Huddersfield Examiner, and there was a story of Mary which is quite sad. And apparently in Mary's earlier life she had been a nurse, and she got married to a gentleman called John Ford, who became an alcoholic through pressures of work and his business. And his alcoholism became so bad that he began to need 24-hour care. So Mary, as his wife and a nurse, took on that duty. And she nursed John right through until his death from cirrhosis of the liver. And shortly after that, Mary became an alcoholic herself. Whether it was through grief or sorrow, I really will never know. But apparently within the town centre, she was given a nickname of QC Mary, because she was always seen with a bottle of QC sherry, drinking it in broad daylight on the benches in the town centre, etc, etc. So it's a very sad story that she was a nurse but ended up an alcoholic. There were other things came through on the Ouija board, nothing of much significance, just a few names without any confirmation. It's hard to tell whether the names are genuine or not. Anyway, we decided to call the investigation to an end, and we gathered together again in the upper part of the pub, the Zetland Arms, and we collated all the evidence that we gathered, and the Vampire Club had indeed proved very interesting, if not for the name and the atmosphere alone. And in respect, I have worn my Nosferatu t-shirt, and I've got Nosferatu here at my side. The masks that you see here are part of my work as an artist. I am hoping to hold a horror themed exhibition in 2021 should the COVID-19 crisis ever leave us. And a dear sister of the darkness, Katie Thomas, has enjoyed watching the masks that have been on show while I have been talking. And she has suggested that I put them all up for sale on sites on the internet and other outlets that I already work through. If anybody is interested in any of these items, please feel free to message me and we can arrange something for price, etc, etc, and tell you all about them. This one is Sonia, and she is a Cenobite. I don't know if you were able to see her. I'll give you a closer look. This is Sonia, and she has been created after watching the Hellraiser movies. This one here is a reptilian, and the face actually contains real snakeskin. Here is Nosferatu from the Club Vampire. And here is Do You Want to Play a Game? From Saw, the movie. So if anyone is interested in these items, as I say, please feel free to contact me. And I will finish now by saying thank you again so much for watching me. Thank you for listening to me talk about these investigations. I can't believe we're at number 26 already. Again, please, I ask you to subscribe and click the like button, and please feel free to leave me a comment to say whether you like the video or not. And could you also let me know if there are any other content that you think that I should add to any of these movies. Thank you again so much. And from Sonia the Reptilian, Nosferatu, and Do You Want to Play a Game? I say thank you again. Namaste.